most business owners are making crucial mistakes with their YouTube and it's costing them thousands of dollars every single month. When done properly, it's the most powerful client acquisition tool at your disposal. So I'm going to show you the exact 6-step process that takes someone from a viewer to a paying client. So like I said, there are 6 steps that we're going to be covering in this video, and we're going to start straight away with step number 1. By the way, if you want this full document, it is in the description for free, no sign-ups, nothing like that, just for you to check out if you want to see it in more detail. First thing that you need to understand about selling on YouTube is that nobody ever bought from a video they did not see. So before we even talk about selling, we need to talk about how to get actually found on YouTube. To get found on YouTube, you need to implement some serious keyword research into your channel. Keyword research is the process of finding phrases that people are actually typing into search engines. There's multiple ways to do this. And for example, if you're a business coach, you might discover that how to scale a service business gets a lot of searches. That becomes your video title and you build your content around that. I used to like vidIQ my keyword research, but here's what most people go wrong. They title their video based on what they want to say rather than what their audience is actually searching for. Your title needs to include the extra keyword phrase you want to rank for. This step alone can dramatically increase your visibility and get you in front of the right potential clients. So ideally, what you'd want to do, I'll show you right here. You want to go onto vidIQ, right? And say, like I said, we can put in scale a service business. So we can just copy and paste that into vidIQ. And we can see what's sort of popping up. As you can see, there's not many searches for that specific term and it's quite low in competition. So we can go on to sort of related terms. We'll start looking through these. Ideally, you want to find something that is, relatively very low searched, but it's relatively low competition, but it's highly searched, right? So you scroll through here and you're going to look through all the options and see sort of, even something as simple as to scale a service-based business is searched more. So this is something you can start looking into now. So, service-based business ideas, quite a bit more search, but competition is extremely high. And as you can see, the more you do on vidIQ, the more kind of specific it is, the better the word. This is kind of a broad subject, but ideally, you get the point. You go in vidIQ, you're searching keywords that people are searching in your industry. You can also go do it through YouTube. Go on YouTube, start typing in a keyword, and through that, you're going to see what people are searching, and then it becomes your keyword, and then you introduce that into your title. This step alone can dramatically increase your visibility and get you in front of the right potential clients. So it's extremely important to actually do keyword research before the videos. It does take a lot of time, right? It's not an easy step. It's not a 5-minute thing. You can spend, 1 hour, 2 hours, if anything, just searching for the right keyword, but in the end, your return on that will be a lot more than just a video that you put out, gets no push, gets 5 views, and gets you no results, compared to a video that's properly searched, gets you 200, 300, 400, 500 upward views, and gets you essentially booked calls, gets you leads, gets you clients, etc. You get the point. So step number 1 is just simply getting found on YouTube, and the best way to do that initially is to just find a keyword that people are searching for and there's not much competition on. And then we need to move on to step number 2, which is actually getting watched. How do you get your videos to be watched, essentially? Like I said, getting first found is the first part. The second crucial element is getting watched, because a video that ranks but doesn't get watched isn't going to convert anyone. So first thing we need to look at is our thumbnail and title, one of the most important parts to actually get people to click on the video. Because if YouTube starts pushing out your video and realize that no one's clicking on it, they're just going to simply stop pushing you. So it's really important to get, a high number of click-through rate onto your video and the amount of people clicking on the video compared to the amount of people seeing it, right? So the thumbnail and title are incredibly important when it comes to people actually clicking on your video. The rest of the process is irrelevant if you cannot get this right. The title needs to have some sort of curiosity or an urgency in it. It also needs to include the main keyword in it, so you can kind of incorporate into this. And your thumbnail should ask a question that can only be asked or should be answered through clicking on the actual video, right? And the title and thumbnail should work as partners, not as twins, which means they should not be the same exact text. I see a lot of people, they have a title, for example, how to scale a service-based business, say that's your title, and in the title, there'll be a picture of them and the title, and in the thumbnail, there'll be a picture of them with the text, how to scale a service-based business. You essentially now just have 2 titles with no thumbnail. Your thumbnail should be essentially some sort of curiosity. Could maybe be, do this with an arrow, and then there's something that's kind of blurred out, or something on like a push on a pain point. Don't do this, but you get the point. It just needs to help create that urgency and curiosity from the title. Essentially, They need to act together as a team and not as the same. And the ideal thing for both is to ask a question that can only be answered through clicking on the video, right? Once you have that and you're confident you're going to get the click, it's time to move on to your script. This is where most creators fail. They make videos based on what they want to say rather than what their audience wants to hear. And the result of this is, yes, you're going to rank for the keyword because you've done your research there. You're going to get the title and the thumbnail right, which is great because that means people are going to click. But as soon as they click and they're bored and they realize it's not for them and there's no value in this, they will click away, and YouTube sees this and pushes your video down the rankings. There's some simple things you can do to avoid this. Number one is to actually just put effort and time into writing your script, same way you did with your research and same way you did with your title and your thumbnail. But to get a bit more concise, you can start with the perfect hook. Essentially, a hook is the first 15 to 20 seconds. If you're B2B, you want to make this as short as possible and include all three of these P's, which is proof, promise, and pain. You want to show proof you know what you're talking about for either your result, client result, or the amount of time you've put into something. You want to show promise, which means you're promising that by the end of the video, they're going to see this. And you want to also push on the pain points of the viewer as much as possible, which is why it's important to have an ICP for each video so you know their exact pain points. The more you can push on the pain, the more you can push that promise, and the more proof you put in within these 15-20 seconds, the better results you're going to get. It has to be quick, has to be snappy, and you have to get into the main section of the video, the bulk, the body, straight away. But it's really, really important to include all three of these and not just start with a generic rubbish intro where, hi, my name is X, we do X, and we're here to tell you about X. It works with a very, very tiny minority, and people seen it work with creators. They might have had 1 or 2 videos that have done extremely well through this, but it is not going to work for the majority of people creating content. You need to actually think about your hook and what you're writing in there. Then we move on to the body. And this is a sort of framework used for the body: problem, agitation, solution framework, which is the what, why, how. What is the problem? Why is it a problem? So really pushing them pain points, and how do you solve this problem, not just for yourself, but for your clients, for anyone with this problem. And then constant open loops, which is simply just keeping people guessing what the next part is going to be and making them know that the next part is equally, if not as more important, than the part you're talking about, which kind of forces them to keep watching throughout the video and keeps the curiosity open. This format ensures that viewers stay engaged all the way to your call to action at the end, and YouTube rewards videos with high watch time by recommending them by recommending them more and more, right? And then I didn't put in here, you really want to have a well thought out CTA. There's no point of doing all of this and then not having an important kind of a well thought out CTA. Think about where exactly the one specific place you want to push your viewer to. You know, landing page, booking call, or a email opt-in are usually the 3 typical ones to push your viewers to. We've gone over how to get actual found on YouTube, what you have to do to get found, and you know, the getting found is a lot more detail that goes into this. There's a lot of SEO that goes on with YouTube. Finding the keyword is just the start. You've got to implement it into your title. You've got to implement it into your description. You've got to implement it into your captions, etc. There's a lot of work that goes on to YouTube SEO, which I will be making more videos on as well, that go a lot more in depth on actually getting found on YouTube, right? And then there's getting watched, which is not just the good packaging in terms of thumbnail and title, it's also having a really well thought out script that keeps viewers watching all the way until the end. And now let's talk about more kind of building that trust capital. Before you can effectively sell on YouTube, you need to understand the concept of what is trust capital, right? Imagine you have a meter that represents how much your audience trusts and values you. Every single piece of content you create deposits trust into that meter, and the more it grows. The more trust you build in your audience, the more you can deliver on what your content is about, and the more likely they are to buy. This takes time to build. It won't be done after one video, unless in very tiny exceptions. For example, you have a very insanely strong case study with proof, right? It's very rare, but if you have an insane case study, for example, you sold a company for 10, 15, 20 million, people will automatically listen to you. Or you've done something for 20+ years, people will listen to you. You get the point. But apart from that, if you kind of, it's not generic, but you know, smaller case studies, it will take time for people to actually trust you, and that is okay. That's where consistency comes in. You start uploading consistently, they see your face more and more, they will start trusting you after a while. It doesn't take too long. People takes different stages, but after a month, 2 months of constantly watching you, they will trust you, right? So to build this trust capital, here's some things that you can easily do, right? Deliver massive value in every single video, including free stuff. Be consistent with your uploads, extremely important. Engage with your audience and share real insights and expertise, not just surface level tips. The more, experiences you can share, the more, of unique kind of value you can bring that no one else can bring, the more they will trust you, because it's about, what you can bring to them and not what, the general kind of advice out they can bring. So if you can give some proper insights, your own experience, it will show, and build that trust. You have enough trust capital when you're getting consistent engagement in your videos, and it's, you're seeing the same names pop up here and there. People are thanking you in the comments, and your audience is asking for more in-depth help, which means they want to hear more from you. They want to understand more of your thinking and more about what you do. So, people start on YouTube, and these business owners, you come on YouTube and you expect to get results straight away, but they don't take this into account. The trust capital is an extremely important thing to take into account when starting on YouTube. You need to start building this first before you can start selling to people. And I'm not saying, don't sell anything or try to sell anything. Still put your CTAs at the end, directing them to your website, directing them to your offer. But don't expect to get much results from it until you can build this trust capital. You have X amount of videos, you've been uploading for X amount of time, and you're getting X amount of, not necessarily views, but people coming in and seeing your stuff, right? And that moves us on to step number 4. Step number 4 is what we call the perfect offer alignment. The biggest mistake I see business owners make is trying to sell something that doesn't align with what their audience came for. Think about it like this: if someone's watching your video about how to make Facebook ads because they're trying to learn how to, make Facebook ads for their business, and at the end you're trying to sell them on your Instagram growth course, that's a mismatch. They do not care about that. They will not come to you for their Instagram growth. That doesn't mean that you're just making, no, just because you're making a video on Facebook ads, you need to be selling exactly Facebook ads. You could be selling client acquisition, and Facebook ads is obviously a form of this. So it has to be centered around your offer. But if it's completely different, most likely people will not buy. Alex Hormozi recently done this. He, a few months ago, he tested out a bunch of content that was getting more views for a broader audience, but they wasn't getting him as much sales simply because his audience cares about business and not about his lifestyle, not about his gym routine, not about what he's eating, but they want to learn about business. And since he changed back to business content, then you can see that he said himself his sales started to skyrocket even though he was getting less views. So it's really important to make content around what your ideal client wants and what they'll invest in based on your content. So essentially, like I said, you need to be thinking of the ultimate goal or the biggest pain of your target market and make content that solves that, but is also related to what you offer. The offer needs to be the perfect next step for someone who watched your video and wants more help. The right way to do this is to make YouTube content a preview of your paid offer, give them real value, make it clear that if they want the full system, the step-by-step implementation, or your personal help, that's what your offer provides, right? This way, you shouldn't be scared to put out value, because if what you offer is of real value and they click on your video and they see, number one, exactly how much time it takes, the amount of effort it takes, the amount of time that you yourself put into making it work for them, they will not hesitate to buy from you if they're the right client, right? So don't be scared to put, don't hide around, hide your secrets or hide the value that you can bring as much value and as much secrets as you can, because trust me, the right client will buy from you if you provide that extra value. So that kind of just covers the offer. Make sure you're making content related to what your offer is, right? And then we have step number 5 is the strategic selling framework slash CTA. I kind of picked up on this earlier when we were talking about the sort of script, but here is sort of how you want to end off your video with, once you have your offer, like I mentioned there, this is how you end it off. So let's talk about how to actually present your offer in a way that feels natural, like a natural next step. The logical next step, position yourself as a logical next step for viewers who want more help. If you found this helpful and want my complete system for X, then check out Y, whatever it is. Maybe it's, like I said, the opt-in page or booking call or your landing page, wherever it is, direct them towards that. Or the proof first approach, before mentioning offer, share a specific result you got for a client. For example, we helped X client get X result in X time using this exact system I am teaching you. You should be incorporating case studies and results throughout your script on YouTube. But if you put this on right before your offer, it could be that extra push that someone needs in order to purchase or come to you or inquire about your services. And then there's the quick mention. Some people do not want to feel like they're being sold to directly. So the most effective way sometimes is to brief us. A simple, by the way, if you need help implementing this, I do offer a service that handles it all for you. Link in the description. It's as simple as that. And they'll be like, you know what? Let me actually check that out. It's more of a subtle way of letting them know, and which, you know, it will cause intrigue if your video was something that they cared about and something that they learned from. And then there's the value sandwich. So you start with value. Always start with value before presenting your offer. Don't just present your offer before the value. And this is kind of something you can kind of put in the middle. This isn't directly one for the end, but essentially you start with value, you present your offer. It can be in one of these ways, and then you end with more value. The sandwiches your pitch between two layers of helpful content. So you share value, you share your call to action. Maybe they're still, you know, not fully convinced, and then your extra value will push them over the line after that. So really think about how you're doing your CTAs in your video and how you can frame it so that it is pushing them to do that next step, whatever your ICP, however they think, whatever they want, what's the best way to sell to them, right? So really think about this when putting out your content. And then step number 6, the final step. Once you have your content and CTA nailed down, you need to make sure the technical side is set up correctly. And again, this goes back to also getting found on YouTube. For example, the description links. Put your main offer link in the first 2 lines of your description. YouTube truncans descriptions means they shorten it, so you can gonna have to, if you want a full description, you have to click on more. If you put your link at the very top, regardless if you open up the description or not, you'll be able to see the link, right? So you need to, so the link needs to be visible without clicking on show more. Like I said, this is where you need to implement more keywords to help YouTube know where to push your content. Again, you put your links, and then underneath you want to write a paragraph of what the video is about with putting that keyword that you found in step 1 as many times as possible, so YouTube knows where and who to push you to, right? And then you're gonna have a pinned comment. Always put a pinned comment. You know, in the case that your video does get loads of comments, you don't want your pinned comment to get lost in the middle of them, so you pin it, and that provides additional value and subtly mentions your offer again, because a lot of people, they will go to comments to see what other people are saying, you know, about your content. Some people read the comments before even watching the video to see if there's anything of value. And then you have end screens. Use end screens to direct viewers to other related videos or to subscribe. You know, sometimes you don't want to push a viewer directly to your offer. Like I said, you want them to spend more time with you and watch more of your content. So what you do, you direct them towards another video, which is going to offer them even more value. And after that video, they'll be even more convinced to buy, right? And then you have your about section. This is kind of different to these, but just make sure your about section clearly explains what you do and has a predominant link to your main offer. I've done a big video on this a few videos back where I go over what your about section should look like and say and have, and also your homepage. So feel free to check that out if you're interested in hearing more. And that's essentially the 6 main steps. And if you follow these and you do them properly and you take your time with each step, you'll be able to sell anything through YouTube, given that you stay consistent and you do it over a certain amount of time and you learn from mistakes and you test things and you improve things over time. This will, it's impossible to not work, especially if done properly, right? If you're interested about the next steps, then this link is, like I said earlier, for free in the description. You can go check it out, give you the next steps to how you can implement this even better for your business, right? If you are a business owner or agency owner and you do want help with YouTube, you do want to start booking calls for YouTube, you do want to start selling on YouTube, either you're not already and you want to, or you are, but you are struggling with getting them clients in, then click the link in the description where it takes you to a call with me. You can go over each channel. I can give you some tips straight away that you can implement even if we don't start working together. I appreciate you taking your time to watch this video, and I see you guys on the next one. Goodbye.